Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I am joined today by Megan Eilts. Megan is a local, to me, new salon owner of The Collective, which is a community-first salon in the Bloomington-Normal area. So those of you that aren't local, I know we have listeners from all over. We are located in Central Illinois. I saw The Collective's Instagram back in the fall, and I thought that the concept sounded cool. Then Megan reached out to me to speak at her upcoming pour and preview night. We hopped on a call to discuss collaborating, and she started sharing with me that she is not even a licensed cosmetologist yet. She's a tech world corporate job dropout who decided at the age of 35 to go to beauty school, and that no one knows that she's opening a salon, not even her family. And so we were on the Zoom call last week, and I was like, wait a second, what are you talking about? You need to come on the podcast. We need to talk about this. And she said she would love to. So, hi, Megan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that awesome intro. It's certainly been a whirlwind, but excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk. I think there's been a narrative. I've said this so many times on the podcast. There's been a narrative in the cosmetology or beauty industry of it's almost like your parents are disappointed if you go to school. Why don't you go become a corporate person with security? Go into tech, that's up and coming. Do this, do that. And I know myself and a lot of people included, like when we said, oh, we want to go to cosmetology school, maybe our guidance counselors were like, okay, if that's what you want to do, parents, grandparents, whatever. And so as Megan was talking to me, while I know that intro sounds dramatic, I felt so proud of our industry and how far we've come. So I would love for you to share your story that you started sharing with me. I'd love to go even a little bit deeper on here today of what has led you to this.
Yeah, sounds good. So it is definitely a non-traditional route. And, that was actually one of my fears when I decided to do this because I was like, will I be respected by professionals? Will
Mm,
people want to rent from me? Like, I can't give you the, hands-on technical guidance that you're going to need, but I can do everything else. I'm a
yeah.
great business owner. I've spent my career in corporate marketing and recruiting. I know how to bring people on. I know how to advertise. I'm a very social person. And so I was like, I think I can do this. And then also, I want to go back to school myself because I'm just ready for a pivot. So, rewinding, I started back in recruiting almost 10 years ago, actually,
Yeah.
a couple of years out of college. I started with agency recruitment, which means that I'm recruiting people to work mostly contract roles, essentially hiring people to work for clients of ours at the
Hmm.
company. It's very fast paced. You're making like 50 cold calls a day. You have
Okay.
really intense metrics. So I did that locally here at Bloomington at a local aerotech office and did that for 2 years and then got recruited to go work at Google actually in
Hmm.
Austin, Texas. So I moved and there I got exposed to the tech world. It's everything that you see like on the internet, on
Yeah.
videos, anything that anyone talks about. There's snacks, there's nap pods, people bring their dogs to work. We're fed 3 meals a day. You can even take one home for dinner. Like it is everything
So
like
when
that.
you got
And
there, were you like lit up? Like, was that exciting to you, or how long did it take for that to wear off, or what was that vibe like?
imposter syndrome is what they call it, and it's
Hmm.
very very real. I grew up in, I wouldn't say that like we were broke by any means, but like
Totally.
certainly like, I have a blue collar majority family. We lived on a
Hmm.
median salary, and sometimes times were tough, and so like this opportunity literally doubled my salary. I was making over a hundred
Yeah.
thousand dollars in that
Yeah.
role, plus you get all of these benefits,
Yeah.
all of this free food, so like it's great. And actually, I never even had been to Texas prior
Hmm.
to moving for this job. I had a
Yeah.
girl from college who had an extra room in the townhouse she was in. I
Hmm.
moved in with her for a couple of months until I found a
Hmm.
spot that I liked. And then the first day in the office, I just remember being so nervous, but also, it's in the 13th floor of this high rise, like in Austin, right off the
Yeah.
riverfront. So it's just like these sweeping views
Oh,
of
cool.
Lake Austin, all this
Hmm.
stuff, and it's just like, there's hundreds of
Totally.
people
Yeah.
buzzing around this
Uh-huh.
office. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was definitely imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
but it was so rewarding and really just like honestly took me to a level in my career of being challenged that I hadn't
Yeah.
experienced before because everyone that you work with is like so, so smart. The interview process there is so intense and it's not anything traditional. Like you're not just
Yeah.
walking through your experience or saying, like tell me about a time that you had a conflict and how did you resolve it.
Totally.
They're asking you questions like, you need to hire 50 software engineers in Manila in the next 6 months, and you only have two other team members. How are you going to do it?
Oh,
And
wow.
so they're testing your critical thinking. They
Yeah.
want you to ask questions and then provide an answer of how you would do it and what your goal target would be and all of that kind of stuff. But it's just such a different way of interviewing that there's not necessarily a
Yeah.
right or wrong answer. They're just judging your critical thinking skills.
Yes. So
So yeah,
fascinating.
so it
Okay,
was,
you're about to you're a salon owner. I mean, the salon
yep,
is just about ready for
yep,
people to start getting serviced there. What are some of those questions, just for because there's a lot of owners and stylists whole tribe and in this community? What are
yeah.
some questions you're going to be asking people in this industry?
Yeah, so for me, like I trust your technical skill. Like if you're
Hmm.
licensed, like I just have to do that. I'm also, of course, going to look at your socials and see what your
Totally.
portfolio looks like. But my questions are more around like, how do you want to grow your business? What marketing efforts have you tried so far? Are you motivated to like build your book, or are you comfy where
Hmm.
you're at? Are you interested in community engagement and involvement? Because that's
Hmm.
a major pillar of this salon. Do you have, what's your pricing? Because we're going to have a minimum pricing for every service that
Love.
everyone has to be at. And so I'm going to be focused on the business side of things and really like, how can I help support you from that side?
Okay.
And not in terms of giving them metrics. Like obviously
Hmm.
I'm just
They're
an
independent. This is a
owner, they're
rental space.
independent,
Yeah.
yeah, rental space, but I want to be a resource for everyone. And that is where it's going to be a bit unique. Like I'm not directly competing with you for clientele right now. So
Totally.
like my main motivator is to get people to the salon so that I continue to
Yeah.
have renters and then, be able to go back to school myself. So those are the kind of questions I'm going to be asking, is more around like your business mindset. How do you want
Yeah.
to grow? What have you done? Yeah.
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 Mm.
Values and efforts thus far on the business side of things, because I
Obsessed.
really, really am looking for those business minded stylists.
Okay, so what made you go from being in Google in Austin, Texas to where you are now? How did this idea present itself? The layer of nobody even knows you're opening a salon is such like a fun
Yep.
added talking piece in. So continue telling
Yep.
the story.
Yeah, yeah. So ended up, the Google role was a contract. So then I went to a permanent role at Facebook. So still in tech, was there for 2 years.
Is that also in Austin or did you move?
No, I moved to Chicago, back to
Okay.
Chicago. So I lived in Chicago. They put me up in corporate housing. I was in a high rise right by the mart, like awesome
Cool.
experience. And I really loved it. But then COVID hit. So I relocated back to central Illinois because we were going to work
Mhm.
remotely, and ended up getting a job with a startup. After I was pregnant with baby number two, I returned to work at my startup and 3 days later was laid off. This was end of 2022, and tech just started seeing waves and waves of layoffs, from Google to Facebook to
Yeah.
Amazon,
We've all been
Microsoft,
hearing
all of
about
them.
it in
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's
headlines and
massive.
stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
to the tune now of probably a million people that are in like non engineering positions have
Mhm.
been laid off. So anyone in like marketing, HR,
And
project
do you think
management,
that's
recruitment.
COVID trickle effect? Is that the rise of AI? Is that a combination of everything? What do you
I
blame
think
that on?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, but also I think that leaders got greedy. The
Mm.
executives understood that they maybe overhired and overpaid at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
That really changed everything in the work dynamic. And then they
Mm.
had to cut costs because they have these empty buildings now, because people are
Yeah.
having to work remotely because of the
Yeah.
restrictions and shutdowns. And so I think it all played into it, but then it became copycat behavior. Like I think
Yeah.
that one company did it. So,
They were
board
like, oh, let's all
members,
cut the
yeah,
costs and it'll be more understandable. We won't be the
they're
bad
getting
guy
pressure
for doing it.
from,
Mm.
yeah, pressure from the board members and other executives of like, okay, well, if
Wow.
they can skin the fat, like we need to also. And so
Wow.
all of that happened. And so needless to say, then ever since I got laid off from that startup, I have not been able to get a job back in tech. I have
Mm.
applied to over 2,500 jobs since December of 22, and
Wow.
had less than 10
And
interviews.
to go from recruiting to that, I mean, I am kind of woo-woo. Don't you kind of think that like maybe that's happening for a reason? It's probably not a direct account to like your skill or your
Yeah,
ability to get the job. Like
yeah.
to me, I'd be like, clearly I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah, no, I definitely started to feel that. It actually happened a couple of times over the last couple of
Hmm.
years. I just wasn't getting interviewed for the job that I wanted. I've been forced into a 50% pay cut, all of this stuff. And then I interviewed for a supervisor role last year and ended up being up the runner-up candidate after a 6-week, six-step interview
Ugh.
process. They did luckily offer me a contract role, but still I was like, oh, this is just another sign. Like
Yeah.
this feels forced now. I'm no longer in a city. They're
Yeah.
making you come back to the office. Like this just is not happening. And then in the last year, we've had a lot of loss of life in my
Yeah.
family on both sides, but
Mm,
that got us all to talking, to family members and stuff about stories and whatever.
yeah.
And actually, my aunt shared with me that my grandma on my dad's side actually went back to hair school at the age of 48. And
How cool.
so, yeah, so like, unfortunately, I never even actually knew her myself. She
Yeah.
she passed away before I was even born, but I think it was just, I moved back to my same small town. All of this kind of is happening, and so I'm like, okay, I'm pulled to do something different. And I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to be my own business owner, and I always knew I could be. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And so then I was like, well, this kind of like feels like a nudge. And then also, I've done cosmetics in my past. I worked at
Hmm.
Clinique when I
Yeah.
was in high school and college, and it's really gratifying feeling to help people, make them feel better about
Yeah.
themselves. And I went to school for fashion. Actually, I was going to be a
Okay.
buyer, so I even
And
just
I mean, it's
randomly
all just that
landed. Yeah,
creative kind of
yeah,
energy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And my jobs have not been creative. Like, they've ended
Yeah.
up being very type A,
Yeah.
regimented, production based jobs, and I'm
But
kind of just
also what a
burnt
good
out.
balance that you have
Yeah,
can now bring to this. So then
yeah.
what opening a salon, where did that idea come from and why does nobody know? And how did you find yourself in this position?
I wanted to enroll in hair school last year, but
Okay.
financially, I just was not in the place to be able to afford
Okay.
it. And so I needed to continue to work, but I'm just not enjoying it so much anymore. And so I needed to come up with a plan, though. Like, my parents are like, okay, you have two kids. Like, you can't just go to school. Like, what are you going to
Totally.
survive off of?
Yeah.
All of this. So I got to thinking and started exploring spaces. And I actually went to tour this building. Oh gosh, it was probably June of last year, May or June of
Okay.
last year, for the very
And it's
first
a
time.
cool looking building. It's like an A-frame building. It's a
Yeah,
really neat space. I've drove by it in person yet, but the videos
yeah.
that you share, I'm like, oh yeah, I would feel a pull to that building too.
And so, I had to kind of create a plan. And that's kind of like the thing with my family. Like, everyone's a very hard worker. I grew up where, the men are the providers. Like, that's just
Yeah.
how it is. But like,
Yep.
the women work too. And we never have had like massive cushions. We don't have like big investment accounts. We haven't
Mhm.
had like that generational wealth passed down.
Absolutely.
And so, thinking of all that, like, I was like, okay, well, I'm really gonna like have to have like my ducks in a row to present
Yeah.
this to my family, because they're gonna think
Mhm.
I'm absolutely crazy. And so, still to this point, they don't know. And so then I toured the building. I ended up going back a couple of times to view it. And then I almost pulled out because I actually did get an interview to go back to work at Meta.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I bombed one of my interview
Uh,
slates. It went so
uh,
bad. And I was like,
uh,
okay, this is just another sign,
I
like,
I have to go the
whatever.
woo-woo side of it. I really
Yeah.
think that that's where what this is.
Yeah, and my kid's dad has been like really supportive about it, and he was always just like, "Megan, you can do this. Like, just get
Yeah.
out of tech. Like,
Mhm.
it's not working for you anymore. Like, you need to be your own boss." And so he's been actually a really supportive person in this all, but so he does know, but not many others. And so
I
I
will
just knew I had to
too.
have had to have my ducks in a row, and I
Uh-huh.
wanted to do all the research. I had to make sure that I was going to have a case for like the financial side and like how I was going to be able to pull this off. And
So
so,
if you don't want to go this route, I can even edit this part out. If you
yeah,
can't afford to go to beauty school, how are you affording the salon? Do you want
yeah.
to share that or no?
No, we can approach
Okay.
that. So, and I couldn't afford to go to beauty school because I couldn't afford to be without an income, is what it
Fair.
was. Like, I could
Okay.
afford the cost of school. I couldn't
Okay.
afford to not have income while I was in
Okay.
school.
Okay.
And so I actually landed this opportunity happened to be perfect because the landlord for the building is the owner of Superior Drywall. And
Mm-hmm.
he bought this office building that was honestly like very disheveled. It was like tan
Mm-hmm.
and gross, and there was
Mm-hmm.
carpet and all the
Yeah.
things. And so he had tore it down to the framing and then re-drywalled everything, but left everything else blank. So it
Yeah.
was a blank slate. He was willing to finish all of the finishes at his expense. So the
Mm.
flooring, the lighting,
That is so
paint.
huge. I
Yeah.
mean, now I've
And
coached so many stylists through obtaining salons, purchasing existing salons,
yeah,
relocation so much. I have seen anyone from cash flow 10 grand to get a salon open to taking
yeah,
out three to $400,000 in
yeah,
loans to make this
yeah,
happen. That is huge. And again, I'm sorry, so in alignment. Like,
yeah.
how do you say no to something like that?
That's kind of what I thought as well. And I knew it was a smart business move. And then to take that another step, so he covered all of that cost, right? Like, the only thing that I do have to pay for, but he's letting me pay over the length of my lease,
Hmm.
is for the mechanical upgrades, for the
Okay.
ventilation, and then for the additional plumbing that had to be run for the shampoo sinks. But he
Oh,
put in the two bathrooms at his expense. He did the flooring,
so
finished the drywall, wrapped the beams, and I got to pick all of it,
in
except for the
your
interior doors. I
vision
didn't
and
pick
your
those, but
branding, you told me you hate the doors. Your
yeah.
vision and your branding is so pretty. I can't wait to see it in person. It's such a pretty
Yeah.
space.
Thank you. Yeah. So all of that aligned, but then even on top of that, the broker that was working with me to look at this space let me know about a small business grant. So through the
Amazing.
local small business economic development committee in town, they were accepting applications for a rent lease or a lease
Mhm.
grant,
Yeah.
essentially commercial lease grant. And so I applied. I had to submit my business plan, which was 85 pages. They like worked really hard on it. You have to put everything in
Wow.
thorough. And then, I had to show my tax returns. Like I had to show a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of
Mhm.
paperwork that went into it and like a multi-step approval process.
Wow.
And so that got approved. So on top of me not having to pay for any of the cosmetic upgrades, I also was able to get that lease grant, and I don't have to start paying rent until I take over the keys, which isn't until next week. So
What a
I will
cool
have that
story.
awesome buffer, yeah, to do it. So it really made sense. I knew that, and I hope that the space is going to be enough, not just the space, but what I have to give from a business
The
perspective
brand, the
as a
concept, the mission, the
brand. Yeah.
vision. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unique things that will sprinkle in throughout the year
Mhm.
will be enough to attract the stylist that I need
Yeah.
in the time frame that the grant covers. From a business perspective, it really was like the perfect
Why not?
situation because
Mhm.
I'm not financing anything. I've paid out of pocket
That's so
for all
cool.
of my equipment, all of my furniture, the supplies
Wow.
that will need to come that I'm providing. All of that will be out of pocket, and I will not have any loans tied to this salon.
So freaking cool. And that's why the people listening, it's so interesting. I've had such a unique position of seeing all these different salon owners grow into salon ownership. And I find it so fascinating from the outside looking in, the ones that just flow and the ones that hit their head against the wall again and again. There's one person specifically, I won't say her name, but like she has been wanting to own a salon for so long, and she had this opportunity, this one space. She was like, "Oh, I'm so scared to do it. I'm so scared to sign the lease. I don't know if it's the right move. I'm so scared to make this decision." And she decided to go for it. She was like 2 weeks in. Turns out there was a big plumbing issue. Her landlord retracted the lease. But what I find is that so much of it is just out of our control. And sometimes you just have to listen to that initial gut pull, and it's either going to flow and it's going to work or it's not. But so many people get stuck in that. Who am I to do this? Why would I do this? I can't do this. And I think
Yeah.
just taking those steps, who was in your corner? I mean, you said your kid's dad, your family didn't know about this. Was this just you in your own mind scheming this up the whole time?
Pretty
You
much.
journaled?
Yeah.
What is your process? Like, where did you come
Yeah.
up with all of this?
So I think just in general, like I have a very strong business acumen and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
generally curious about things,
Mm-hmm.
but I will look anything up, like literally anything up on the internet.
Yeah.
And I just started researching. So I like went to look at it. And I think it came to because with the layoffs, like I was like, okay, what is AI not going to be able to replace? What do I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing? I like gabbing with people, honestly. I
Mm-hmm.
like to make people
Yep.
look and feel good. I still want to be a business owner. So, oh, here, let's go do
Yeah.
it. And so I started researching like what would it really take, and
Mm-hmm.
actually there is pretty low barrier to entry to being a
Absolutely.
salon owner
Mm-hmm.
compared to a lot of other things. Like I
Yeah.
also would have loved to like own like a brewery. I am like a
Mm-hmm.
craft beer girly,
I had a
but
feeling you were gonna say
the
like a coffee shop or something because I sometimes daydream about something like that. So that's interesting, but that's probably much higher overhead.
no, yeah, that would be cute if I wanted to open
Yeah.
a coffee shop, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know enough about coffee.
Sure.
I love craft beer. I love
Uh-huh.
sports. So just like a sports bar, a microbrewery, something like that would totally be up my alley.
Yeah.
But it is so much more money on the front end, the capital that I just don't have,
Yeah.
quite frankly. And
Yep.
it takes a lot longer time and you have to worry about payroll, you have to hire people. There's just so much more involved. But
Totally.
I also wanted something that wouldn't, suck the life out of me, and a
Mhm.
restaurant would. I've waitressed on the side like
Yep.
my whole life too, and I know what hard work it is. And though I really enjoy it, it would just drain you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need something that's gonna be flexible. I want my kids to be involved in athletics. How do I find something also that's gonna be
Hmm.
flexible to what I can make as the routine? And so, it all kept leading back to opening a salon and having a place that, once I've got out of school that I can come home to, that I'm still the boss of.
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of what all went into it and how we got here.
Wow. I love your brain. That's so neat. So, do you know when you're starting cosmetology school yet or no?
No, tentatively it'll probably be like maybe late fall or the beginning of the
Okay.
year. I really want to get things going smoothly, make sure I have steady, consistent renters and don't
Yeah.
have that risk before I give up
Pour
my
yourself
income.
into them. So, are you
Yeah, yeah.
saving a spot for yourself, or if it just filled up, you would let it fill up?
No, I just let it fill up. Like
Okay,
I'll
I think
I
that's
mean,
smart.
I'm
Yeah.
at least a year away, a year and a
Okay.
half away from being
Yep.
behind the chair myself. So no, I'm not saving a chair for myself. I will work my remote job on site from the salon, be able to pay off the debts and things that I have personal wise,
Yeah.
and then set a nest egg to basically be my income while I'm in school. It's kind of my goal. So that's where we're going with it.
And when you reached out to me about speaking at this event that you're doing, you said you really want the culture to prioritize education. So tell me more about your vision with the collective. Also, I love the name, the collective. I had a program for a little bit that I called the collective. I've
Oh yeah.
dissolved it since then. So I'm really
Yeah.
attached to that name as well.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, what's the vision with that space?
Yeah, so in general, coming out from outside of the beauty industry, there's such a stigma. And you can go into some salons and you just feel that like it's
Yeah.
catty. Like there's
Yeah,
just people that hate each other. They're
totally.
just full of drama. Like that is
Mhm.
not what I'm about. Like the
Mm.
collective, honestly, there's actually, as I found out, a lot of salons across the US named this. So
Yeah.
it's not really that
Can't trademark
original,
it or anything.
unfortunate. But the meaning behind it for me at least is basically Bloomington-Normal continues to grow into this
Mhm.
melting pot of people. Like we're getting more people from California coming to work for Rivian. We have more
Yep.
people transferring from out of town and out of state to go to ISU or Wesleyan. And so we're getting to be a more diverse community. And there's not really like a space where people can all come together of different hair types and backgrounds. And that is
Yeah.
like my ultimate goal is to get stylists of very different specialties and get you under the same roof. I think everyone deserves to have a nice, beautiful space to get their
Yeah.
hair done in. And traditionally that's not always been the case for some groups of people or
Yep.
hair types. I want that piece tied with like community engagement, and kind of collectively all coming together as one group to kind of be the efforts here. And so we'll have that huge community engagement pillar. They'll do be events to do throughout the year. And I've got some rough ideas, but essentially
Yeah.
I can't make any of my stylists do this, right? Like they're
Mhm.
independent, they're not with me. So in exchange, I'll just give like a booth rental discount
Love that.
for participating in events. So I'll take
Yep.
maybe like 25 to $30 off your following month's rent if you participate in this event.
So
And
cool.
so you're incentivized to go and participate, get your face in the community. And so I think that's really what it came from. And what I'm
Yeah.
hoping is like it's a collective, low key, comfortable, relaxing space, and
So
that's
cool.
not falling into that stigma of the drama. I don't even know what to say, uncomfortableness that
Yeah,
sometimes
or
is
even
in an
just the old
environment.
school feeling of salons, even if there's not drama, but even
Yeah.
just everyone knows what we're talking about. You've been in
Yeah.
them there, and I don't know a lot of, so I do hair in Lincoln. I now live in the Bloomington-Normal area. They're like 30
Yeah.
minutes apart from each other, so not far. But I don't know a lot of stylists in Bloomington, so I can't speak to it itself, but it does feel like Central Illinois is behind on everything. So I love
Yeah.
this kind of new age, new vibe, really forward thinking, really community driven space. Obviously, I'm very content and happy where I still do hair very minimal
Yeah.
where I'm at, but like I want to be part of anything I can. Events, tell me if you're
Yeah.
doing it. Like, and if it works out, I would love to do it. So obviously, I wanted to just share that with people. So we have
Yeah.
a couple questions I wanted to ask you. How many chairs do you have? Remind me.
So six, potentially eight. My
Okay.
original floor plan, I'm kind of having to turn around a lot, so we
Yep.
might be doing four double sided, but at
Okay.
least six. Yep.
Okay. 6 chairs. How many shampoo bowls?
Three.
Content space. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's another thing, and I might offer this out even as like a rental for
Mm-hmm.
other stylists too. Like you don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to rent from me, but if you want to rent
Mm-hmm.
the content space, for like an hourly rate, you can come in and shoot content, and that would be for like flat lace products. If you want to bring in a model to do quick hair shots, you can
Brilliant.
do that
Mm-hmm.
too. It's not gonna be anything overly fancy, but there'll be a backdrop and some props involved, the correct lighting, and it'll be designated space other than just taking before and afters in your natural lighting. That obviously does great, and those are
Yeah.
the shots that you want. But I think there is a way with people who are business oriented and wanting to make more out of their career and get time outside of behind the chair so much.
Yeah.
There's so
Yep.
many ways to make money on the internet now, and
Yep.
affiliate marketing, all of those things. And I'm here to like consult my
Yeah.
renters on that aspect, and
Amazing.
not just pushing products or increasing prices. Like there's other
Love
ways to supplement your income while still giving you your creative freedom to be behind the chair when you're wanting to.
Love, love, love. So we have this porn preview. What's the date again that we're doing?
February 26th. So it's a Wednesday
26th.
night, 5 to 7. The first hour will kind of just be open house, walk through, enjoy a beverage,
So
a
excited to see us in
mocktail.
person. Uh-huh.
A mocktail if you prefer, and then the last probably 45 minutes to an hour or so, you and I will chat and allow you to do your thing. I think the reason I wanted that from day one is that I am invested in the education piece because I can't teach you myself, so I'm aware of that. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything
Totally.
about the technical aspect of being a stylist, but I do know business and
Yep.
I'm willing to invest in the things that
The
my
people that
team is
know the
asking
parts
for.
that,
I will stay humble in that fact and I will never pretend to know
yep.
more than I do in that space. And so having you be a part of this first night is kind of just like my first proof of the pudding, if you will, that I'm willing to invest in people that know things that I don't, that know the industry, that know the technique and things like that.
Totally. Cool.
Yeah.
I am so excited. So how many people are available to come?
Yeah, so the open house that can be as many as possible for that
Okay.
first hour, but then we do need RSVPs so I know how much drink
Like
and food to
five more. Yeah.
accommodate for. But then also for the panel discussion, I would say probably max 25 to 30 people.
Okay.
So it is going to be pretty limited just because I want to make sure everyone's comfortable and has
Yep.
room. There is an RSVP link on our Instagram page in the bio, but also we have a highlight reel that it's in. Just fill that out. It's a quick Google
Yeah.
Doc form.
And
This
this is
is
mostly for stylists, less so than for clients. I know open house, anybody can come, but is that more so your intention?
correct, correct. I should
Okay.
have clarified that. So this
Mhm.
one, we will have a client like open house
Okay.
or grand opening type event in April, but that will be more like maybe like I'll have a
Cool.
vendor or two in there and you'll get to come in and mingle with your stylist at that
Yep.
point. But this is really just for beauty professionals in general. So I still would be open to having like a nurse injector who wants to get out of a
Totally.
med spa or, a massage therapist I could have room for.
Yeah.
We do have one esthetician signed already. I'm not going to release her info because she hasn't
Fair.
announced yet, but we do have one esthetician who will focus on facials and basic waxing. So I need
Your
to do a
space
little
for
more
that
research
or
into
scent?
that. It does
Hmm.
require different ventilations.
Ventilation.
The ventilation adjustments that I have done may accommodate for one.
Okay.
I have had someone reach out about that
Okay.
very recently,
Yeah.
actually. And so I'm going to do some more research, but more than likely it will be brows, lashes, facials, and
Cool.
then ideally a nurse injector or
Yeah.
a massage therapist would
And
be
it sounds
great.
like the space is going to grow and evolve around who the founding renters are.
Exactly. Yeah. Right now, I'm not set on what the makeup looks like. I have a lot of flexibility in the design of the space to have multiple. So I would say I'd have like three more spots for
Awesome.
non-stylists. And then like there's a whole basement in this facility too that
There's room to grow.
we'll have a break room. We will have the content space. I'll have my office down there. So, there's lots of options depending on who signs, and I'm willing
Mm.
to be flexible with that.
Anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet that you think is important to share?
I think just reach out, come and see this
Yeah.
space. Feel free to reach out to me personally. Now that you know who I am, you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or message the salon page, and I'm the one
Yeah.
who manages that. I think the biggest thing to know is I'm always open to feedback. This is a learning
Mhm.
experience for me, and I am humble enough to know that
Yeah.
I am willing to hear anyone's ideas, especially out of those who become founding members. This is your opportunity to kind of help put your stamp on something too and hope that you'll want to stay long term. I'm willing to hear everyone's ideas and,
Yeah.
typical millennial manager, I feel like. And also, I don't want people to think that I'm going to give you chores or anything like that. I'm paying for cleaning service, I'm paying
Love.
for towels and laundry service. Something else I will be providing actually, Hannah Night with Always Flourishing Photography. She has
Hmm.
kind of made her name in the central Illinois area recently with branding shoots for a lot of
Okay.
people. And she's done several stylists recently. But
Awesome.
that is something that I'm also including in your booth rental fee at my cost is we will do actually four different professional branding shoots this
Love.
year. So one
Love.
a quarter. And that's like almost a $4,000 value that I'm
Brilliant.
covering.
Hmm.
So, I'm willing to invest in the things to make the salon successful. Just need
Yep.
people who have that same approach and mindset to come join me.
And not majority of my listeners are not local, so I do hope this hits some local people, but I would say even the people who are listening to this that are just in the industry, different state, we have different countries that listen in. But what Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations is all about, I'm assuming you can reach out and just DM Megan if this is inspiring to you, if you want to get into the industry, if you want to open a salon for the first time, if you want to pick her brain. I just love highlighting people who are like doing it and walking the walk right now just to put it out in front of more eyes. Cause I think when those connections happen, we all kind of flourish from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's so many tools that people don't think about that can be a resource. Like even ChatGPT, you guys use
Totally.
it. There's so
Mhm.
many unique marketing tools and they can make it a lot easier for you to make money outside of
Yeah.
being behind the chair. I feel like I am strong in the business aspect of things and happy to
Yeah.
answer any questions for anyone that may have them.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I will leave Megan's Instagram, the collective's Instagram. I will leave the form for the open house with all the details. And thank you, Megan, for coming on and sharing your story. So, this episode's going to drop on Wednesday, if that's cool with you. How do you feel?
Honestly, I kind of am because I just don't even know how to like
Yeah.
bring it up at this point. I think I might just like invite them to dinner and then I'll be like, hey, will you meet me at this place and give them the address and then show it? I
You
don't
should
know.
film that. That's funny. You know
Yeah.
what it kind of reminds me of the TikTok trend where people have babies and don't tell their parents yet, and then the
Yes.
parents get there and the baby's already born. That's what
Yes,
it
this is
reminds
a very, it's as much of a commitment, maybe not a 18 to life commitment, but it's a
Totally.
pretty big commitment and one that certainly costs more right off the bat. But
Totally.
yeah,
But I
I
think
really,
there's something too, if you knew that there was going to be people planting doubts in your head or fears
yeah,
or anxieties, like I think there's something so fucking cool about you just saying, I'm going for this. I'm keeping my head down, I'm keeping my mouth shut, and I will show you guys
yeah,
all when it's done. I think it's
yeah,
the coolest story ever. So I hope to,
yeah,
obviously I'm local to you, so I hope to be slapping you on at the 1 year,
yeah,
5 year, 10 year anniversary of the salon space
yeah.
because it is neat what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and I've really enjoyed talking about this. But yeah, that's my personality. I'm kind of just a go for it kind of
Yeah,
gal, and
love it.
if it messes up, it messes up. But I'll figure it out along the way. And so this is
Yep.
just another example of that. Certainly keep you posted on how the reveal does go, and
Awesome.
look forward to seeing you later this month.
Awesome. So excited. Thank you everybody for listening. Like I said, everything that we talked about today will be listed into the show notes. Thank you again, Megan, for being here, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.